welcome everyone to the Washington County Board of Commissioners work session. Can you believe it? Tuesday, August 20th, 2024. Where has summer gone? As all of you parents prepare for the new school season.
Sure.
This is Chair Catherine Harrington. I'm joined by Commissioners Vice Chair Nafisa Fai, Pam Treese, Jerry Willie. Commissioner Rogers is excused. So the first item on our agenda is to check in on today's formal agenda. We have 11 items on the consent agenda, one set of members to appoint to Aging and Veteran Services Advisory Committee. We have a presentation on our affordable housing bond and supportive housing services work, the quarterly update, and then we have one action item related to emergency medical services. That's it. Any particular questions or things? Okay, great. We're good. We're good to go then. We have a long agenda for today's work session. So the next item is appointments to the Urban Road Maintenance District Advisory Committee. So welcome staff.
Morning, Todd Watkins, and I manage the county's road operations division. And with me is Sherry Gray, who is our community programs coordinator, and she will lead the discussion today on our recommendations for the upcoming appointments for our Urban Road Maintenance District Advisory Committee. Sherry.
Thank you, Todd. I appreciate the intro. So Urban Road Maintenance District Advisory Committee, otherwise known as URMDAC, has nine spaces and currently 8 members. Excuse me, currently 7 members and 9 positions. We have one member who has an expiring term, and she is up for reappointment, and she does wish to be reappointed. And we have one new applicant who lives within the URMD who wishes to be appointed. That leaves one vacancy remaining. Linda Feldhen is the member with the expiring term, and Joseph Subject is the new member, and he lives again in the URMD. I don't remember which CPO it is, but he is between Nike and 26 and Murray and to all its Rex. That
be one.
Yeah.
One goes down a bit. CPO.
Oh, he's between Murray and 158th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That could be 7.
No, oh, CPO? Oh, no.
CPO 6.
No, CPO 7.
7?
Yeah. CPO 7 goes down to
Goes below.
Jenkins baseline. And
Okay.
then the CPO 1 border is Murray.
So that is his local neighborhood, and that's where he's coming from. And that's it. There are just the 2, a new appointment and a reappointment, and we will come back to them on September 3rd. I think we will come back to you to ask them to appoint.
And through it all, we'll still have one vacancy.
We'll still have one vacancy.
Wow. Gee, okay. I mean, it's a great crew that we currently have, so.
I agree.
I want to say thank you for the work that you're doing to make sure that that group is, that we have a robust group, and they really do participate. There's a lot of interaction, and I appreciate being able to sit in on those.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay.
We'll see you when you're here for the board appointments,
I think it's the 3rd.
September 3rd.
Yep. All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
First coming,
Yep.
quick and fast.
Good job.
All righty. Do we have our library? There's Lisa. We're going to talk about the West Slope Library operational transition recommendation. And I've been having a blast, Wallace.
I'm so glad.
Good morning. Wallace the bookworm.
He's our mascot, and he's been having a lot of adventures this summer. And we're also asking folks to have their own library adventures and go to each library and collect a Wallace sticker, which is custom for each library. So yeah, community's having a lot of fun. Oh, there it is. Yep.
Tell he
Oh.
brought his,
Oh, you even gave. a
That's
bear.
what's in your envelope too.
Oh,
some of us are catching up on our
yeah.
mail, having been away for business. So I took, thank you for the stickers. I shared mine with the Government Relations and Staff Assistant team. So Commissioner Treese has the whole collection from all the
Them all.
different libraries. Anyway, enough about Wallace. Why are you here?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for such a warm welcome. My name is Annie Ledesma. I'm one of the Assistant County Administrators, Chair, Board of Commissioners. I'm here with Lisa Tattersall, and we're excited to come here today to report to you on a culmination of a significant body of work that's been ongoing for the past 2 years. And so we think that today represents a really big milestone, and we wanted to report back to you. But before I turn it over to Lisa, I do want to take this opportunity just to thank Lisa and the team for such an incredible job of really managing change in a change management process in such a human-centered and thoughtful way. I think Lisa and the library team really embody our guiding principles and have done just a really heavy lift on this. And I'd like to also thank Commissioner Treese because Commissioner Treese has really, in the spirit of connecting with her constituents, has spent a lot of time supporting this process and really supporting the neighbors. And so we really are excited to be able to come to you today to talk about what we think is a really strong win for not only the community and being able to maintain services, but also to continue to evolve as a county where we have really strong systems and we're becoming a high functioning organization. So turn it over to Lisa.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Harrington, Commissioners. I'm Lisa Tattersall, Manager of the Cooperative Library Services. Can I have I'm here today to provide your board with staff's positive recommendation to move forward with executing an operational transition for the West Slope Library from a county-operated facility to one operated by the Garden Home Community Library Association. The policy question for your board today is if the board supports moving forward with the implementation of the transition of the West Slope Library from a county-operated facility to being operated by the Garden Home Community Library Association. This recommendation I'm bringing your board today supports your board's direction in the resolution and order from May 7th. Our recommendation is to align West Slope Library with the operational model for public library services in urban unincorporated areas of the county by transitioning operations to the nonprofit. Under your board's leadership, this solution provides continuity of service for the West Slope and Raleigh Hills communities. It also creates efficiencies in service delivery and supports the fourth fundamental of the county's strategic plan update, which states that countywide property tax dollars will be primarily expended on countywide services. In the next few slides, I'm going to share some background on the process we've undertaken so far, and then share some more specifics about the benefits that we see for this transition. So West Slope Library has been operated by the county since 1978. And like I said before, the other libraries in urban unincorporated areas are operated by nonprofits, and then libraries in cities are of course operated by their municipality. West Slope is currently funded by a transfer of operating funds from WCCLS and receives support services from WCCLS in Washington County. West Slope Library has a library advisory board appointed by your board. They have a wonderful nonprofit, Friends of the Library, which does a lot of fundraising. The library building is located on Beaverton School District property on the grounds of the Raleigh Park Elementary School. Per the terms of our current lease with Beaverton School District, we do not pay a fee for using the site, and the building is owned by Washington County. The Garden Home Community Library is 2.5 miles away from West Slope, and it's the closest neighbor. They're similarly sized with similar demographics and activity, and they already partner on programs throughout the year. The process we've gone through so far is that we engaged with the Library Strategies Consulting Group. They're a nationally recognized nonprofit consulting firm for libraries, and they've been amazing. And they've evaluated the current state of service and staffing levels at both libraries. And then we asked them to provide a recommendation for the feasibility of a transition. They've done a fantastic job, and they've conducted really thoughtful engagement with the West Slope Library Advisory Board, the Friends of the West Slope Library, and the Garden Home Community Library Association Board. They held informational interviews with library staff, with library directors, school district staff, other nonprofit library directors in the cooperative, as well as small library directors in the cooperative, and WCCLS staff. In addition to all of that, they did a deep analysis of library operations, looking at usage statistics, budget information, org charts, schedules, and all of that good stuff. Their conclusion was that the transition of operations of West Slope from the county to Garden Home was a viable option to maintain continuity of service for the community. We really feel this solution is a win-win. We've heard from West Slope stakeholders and from the community how important the library is to their community, and this solution maintains that continuity of service. In addition, the Garden Home Community Library Association Board is really pleased to be at this stage in the process, and they are excited to move forward in partnership with Washington County. Molly Carlisle, the director from Garden Home, is here today just to show support. With this transition, staff anticipate that we will realize a 12% reduction in WCCLS's costs to fund both libraries. This does not include the savings that our facilities team will see in terms of reduced workload and investment needed to maintain that facility. The streamlining and the efficiencies gained in having one agency operate 2 library buildings contributes a great deal in this reduction of the cost to operate. In addition to the continuity of service and cost reductions, we also gain additional role clarity in the cooperative. WCCLS moves from being an operator of a library to a partner in service delivery, fully in alignment with our cooperative's governance model that we have currently. This role clarity is really beneficial for the whole cooperative as we work with our partners through our cooperative-wide funding and governance evaluation process, which is currently happening. All right. So next steps, if your board supports moving forward with implementing this transition, we would return to your board with an action item on September 17th. This would be a draft memorandum of agreement, or MOA, between the county, the Garden Home Community Library Association, and then the Beaverton School District, because they own the property on which the library is sited. I just also want to say we really appreciate BSD's partnership in this and their willingness to support a different operator for the library on their facility. This MOA would allow the partners to move forward with implementing a transition to be effective no later than June 30th, 2025, so the end of this fiscal, should your board authorize signature. During the transition process over the next year, WCCLS will be working with our wonderful human resources team, I think Lisa's here, to build a really thoughtful and human-centered transition plan. There are also many operational and technical details to work out. And so Library Strategies, the consulting firm, would be engaged to support us as project managers for that transition, supporting us in implementing many moving parts. The transition itself would be formalized with contract revisions that would be brought to your board later, closer to the time of the actual operational handover later this fiscal year. So to wrap up this presentation for your board, I'll close with our policy question again, and happy to answer any questions you might have. And thank you for your leadership throughout this process.
Could I
Yes, please.
I'd just like to make a couple comments. First of all, this was a really thoughtful process. And this started, to remind us all, this started in the budget discussions, not this past budget, but the budget previous year, about how we pay for services. And so we were looking at how do we pay for these services. The West Slope Library came to the board and said, we'd like an extension for a year to come up with a solution. And we collectively granted that extension, and they've done a remarkable job along with our leadership for the library. So the community and the library have really come together, both at the Garden Home Library and at the West Slope. I've attended those meetings. That the end result is going to be that the end users the people that we want to be utilizing our Wally and everybody else won't see a degradation of services at all. They'll see, in fact, positive services. They'll see flexibility that they may not have seen before. And our community is very supportive of this. So, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, knock on wood. We haven't received any letters of complaint about this. We haven't received any concern because I believe that outreach has been so complete. So I really, really thank the process. I thank Lisa and Danny and everybody within the library. And the next steps are going to be critical in terms of making sure that it is a human-centric transition and that we're working there as well. But I have 100% confidence that that's going to happen. So thank you for your work. And I will tell you that at the meetings, I think the best part was, well, for me, it was because of my idea. And that was at the end of each meeting, we talked about what are your favorite books? So we made lists of books that we enjoyed reading over the past year or so, shared them on a big whiteboard, and we really all enjoyed that. I got some great reads on it.
Excellent. Other commissioner thoughts? Commissioner Willie or
No,
Mike?
it's good. It's a good process. Thanks for the update yesterday. Too. Appreciate it.
I have a question. First, I have a question and a comment, and I'll start with the comment. Thank you for your presentation and this important work you're doing. Transitions are hard and change is even harder. So I appreciate the delicate conversations that you're having. I like what Commissioner Tree said about the human centrics, but I have not heard you speak of the impact of the staff side of this. So could you talk us through, besides the FTE, the number of bodies or employees, both full-time and part-time staff that are impacted by this condition? And then I have another question about HR.
Absolutely. We ran a quick report yesterday to make sure we had these numbers for you. So there are 11 people total working at the West Slope Library currently. That's 8 FTE. 3 of those folks are variable hour staff, which is a temporary type classification with the county. They were hired last month. 3 folks are part-time. They were hired in the last 3 years. And then 5 folks are full-time, and they were all hired between 2011 and 2022, kind of a range.
What's their tenure with the county?
3 variable
Are there?
hours.
No, some of them are 5 years into the county, 1 year.
Right. So the 3 variable hour were hired in the last month, so about a month. 3 are part-time. They were hired in the last 3 years, so 3 years or less, depending. And then 5 are full-time. They were hired between 2011 and 2022. So anywhere from doing math on the spot, 2024 minus 2011 is 13 years. Is our longest tenured, and then up to 2 years. And they fall pretty evenly in that window.
And then the HR question I had is, and I understand the impact of staff and how sensitive this issue is, so I'll try to frame it delicately. We read in the news a lot of organizations that are having transitions just like this, such as Intel, Nike. There is a talk in the news about severance package. Is the transition you're talking about with HR will include the severance package for the staff? Because this will end in layoff, I assume, unless they get a job within the county, and hopefully
So
that
I
would
think
work.
that is a question that goes to Ms. Angie as the CAO.
Okay.
So in a public meeting, I am not prepared to speak to individual employee processes. At the county, we do not have a personnel provision that provides for severance packages, which is pretty common along public sector entities. This is not a layoff. This is a transition to a new library system. So I want to make sure that's clear. And I think we can follow up on the individual, but per board roles, county administrator roles, we don't talk about individual personnel matters within a public meeting.
I would just add, I think that I appreciate the spirit of all of the commissioners' concern about like, the impact to staff. As you know, we are as strong as our employees. And there's been a great deal of care and concern for those employees. And what has been really, really inspiring is how the employees who are impacted continue to sort of enter into the work with like a One Washington County stance. And our Chief of Human Resources has worked extensively with Lisa and the team to think about what are the current supports that we can offer, but also what are, potential current supports that we could offer in the future. So I think it's been with that spirit and knowing your commission's concern for employees and our real care and concern for employees that we've really tried to think about what are those supports, what are those thoughtful ways to make sure that the impacts to staff are mitigated as much as possible.
And Danny is speaking to that relationship with HR. Ms. Tackage and Danny have had significant conversations just within the department. So this conversation has been happening both from Lisa's leadership, her leadership teams, with not just a group as a department, but individual employees on an ongoing basis since this conversation originally started.
And is it my understanding, I think I heard you, Tanya, say this isn't layoff, but it's one library to another library. But it's my understanding that the nonprofit has the discretionary to either
Mhm.
accept those employees or not. So
Correct.
technically,
Correct.
they will vacate their rights within Washington County and become unemployed, and therefore have to apply that process of to.
There's also other options such as this ramp that we're in this transitionary period within the library system. There are other library openings and they are welcome to apply for those other library openings as they do apply, as they do open. Excuse me for my word utilization there.
Right. So I think further questions along those lines should be appropriately discussed on a one-on-one basis.
Mhm.
Any other questions or comments, commissioners? I'll add mine. This is being very well done, and I really appreciate the spirit, the process, and the intentions behind all of this. As noted, to make sure that we are operating according to our strategic plan. I just wanted to share my thoughts in terms of the asset of the building. You've been very clear with us that the land is owned by the Beaverton School District. Excuse me, as part of this transition, I would like to see that the end result is clean for Washington County, which from my standpoint means that I would like to see the building transition as well. How to go about that, and to which partner. What I mean by poof, I guess I should use my words, is I want to see that it's successful for the longer term. And I am not, the process needs to answer that question versus me. So I assumed that through the course of the next steps, that would be one of the aspects that would be touched on. And I thought it would be useful for me to share my thoughts earlier in the process versus later. So
I'm happy. Can I share a little more about that? I'm happy to share that Greg Wyman, I want to give him a shout out in facilities, is amazing. And that is our intent. And so we've already had those conversations with BSD and
Oh,
Garden
nice.
Home. And so the intent is that the building ownership would transition to Garden Home. And then they would have a lease agreement with BSD.
yeah.
So it would be a clean transition.
Oh, gee, they've already figured out
So we're
the
good to
particulars.
go. Yep.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Well, we look forward to the formalization of next steps and then continued work together.
Thanks for
Great.
your support.
Thank you. Job well done.
I'd like to
Alrighty.
give a shout out to the community as well. So thank you to the community.
Alrighty, so this is where we have a break in the topics, but I thought I would ask, given that the three of you were at the IWA conference, rather than wait until board communication later, since we have a little time, would the three of you like to speak to the conference now? And I'm asking you the question. if
Yes.
You would like to.
And I think that my my conference attendee buddies would are looking to me. It was thank you.
Yes, Commissioner, if you're-
So for the sake of those who may be watching this, with our Clean Water Services hat on, since we're the Board of Directors for Clean Water Services, the International Water Association Conference was
It was in Toronto, and we were there from Sunday. Well, some people came in a little earlier. Sunday was the opening ceremonies,
Mhm.
and then it went through Thursday morning. This is the same conference that the chair and I attended with Diane and former administrative leads in Copenhagen. The folks from staff that were with us were Elizabeth and Joe Gall and Rick Shanley. So we had great support across the board there. There were I'm not sure if Elizabeth and Joe got any sleep, but there was always something to be planning for. I will say, just to kick this off with my experience in Copenhagen and Toronto, I feel a little bit guilty that both the chair and I raved so much about our Copenhagen experience. This was a different experience. And I think in Copenhagen, we had the opportunity of seeing the diversity of culture at a much higher level. So we saw a nation that taxes its residents at a pretty high level. Residents have been very bought in to a reuse cycle that we don't see as much in North America. So, and the intensity of the conference in Denmark was very tight. So we didn't have to worry about traveling long distances, going to diverse places, as much. Here, for me, the highlights for me of this conference was the keynote speaker is Peter Glick, and he talked about, and I would highly recommend this 3 stages of waters and 3 ages of water. Thank you. And it's about kind of the evolution of water itself from prehistoric times to more industrial times and now into the future when we're looking at water scarcity. So, and I'm just reading his book. It had the same elements of scariness that we
Oh, dear.
experienced with some of the climate change in Copenhagen, but it wasn't as direct. And it could be that I'm a little bit more knowledgeable now and didn't feel it as directly, but he was a really good speaker. We learned early on that the tracks might have been a little bit more over our heads, may I say, or maybe we were a little underwater. No, when I go to a PFAS presentation and all I see are chemical chains go across the room, I'm thinking, I'm out of my league here.
Well, that's interesting because by comparison, I went to an actual workshop when we were in Denmark and we broke up into tables and participated and
That was in the Utility
still on
Leaders
point.
Forum, I think, wasn't it?
work sessions, maybe. There were work sessions and technical sessions.
Well, there were work sessions, technical sessions, and then there was also the Utility Leaders Forum. And it took us a little bit
No,
to-
this was in the full on.
Yeah.
It
I-
wasn't just the utility leaders part.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
that's
so
different. This
anyway,
is-
it took us a little bit to get into the utility leaders forum sessions, which were better
Directed
focused for
towards you.
us.
Got it.
But at the same time, there were
was not.
presentations from across the world and it was hard to relate to some of those issues. But it was still a good learning experience. We went on 3 different tours. The first one was to a distributed system. That was probably, for me, the best of the tours. And it really gave some perspective. Thank you, Jerry. It was the Markham District Energy Tour, and that was fascinating because they talked about how they basically supplied all of the services to a geographic area. And so that was really interesting, and our presenter was really interesting. Again, though, we had a long travel time, probably over an hour, and the bus was about 90 degrees. So there were some logistical issues, but that was fascinating. And we all talked a lot about where can we see this applying to us? Where was there a new, you basically have to have a new district
Yes.
to make this work. So we were all talking about, would this have worked in South Hillsborough? Would it, and we were trying to kind of figure that out with Rick Shanley's help and others. The next tour was to a recycling center, and that was a long trip. And it was something that I've been to this type of location through Metro. So it was a little bit of a stretch for us. And we were in the inside of the system and in the bowels of the system, so to speak. And it was interesting. There were some safety concerns in some rooms that
Was this the stinky experience?
yes, this was, and there was one room that was pretty filled with ammonia, and one of the attendees was a little worried, and we left there pretty quickly. So it was a little different experience for us. Again, a long bus ride, a better air-conditioned bus ride, but a longer one. The last tour was the tour to waste treatment facilities with a relatively new system for treating waste that included fibers that grow a biological film to enhance the process. And it was very, once again, I don't know if I would have gotten any of this if Rick Shanley hadn't have been there. So, we even reading up, it was pretty difficult to understand this ahead of time. So we went to that tour, and that was about an hour and a half out and over 2 hours coming back. And this was basically against traffic and some of the other things. We did stop at a farmer's market for lunch, that was fun. All in all, I think that the organizers of the Toronto conference were not as on point as the organizers of the previous conference that we attended. The other little thing about it is that the conference center in Toronto, you go down at least 4 levels. So it's all underground. And so all day you're without natural light, and that was a little overpowering after a while too. So it was, I learned a lot, and frankly, I appreciated being, again, like I think we did, appreciated learning together. And all of us attended everything. We were always together. We looked like I won't say what 3 number comes, the three, yeah, I was gonna say that, the 3 Musketeers. So, but as well with the staff, it was really helpful. And we were from breakfast.
CWS, who was C, who was W, who was
That's right. That's right. But, and Joe was great. Elizabeth was fabulous, and Rick was really helpful in terms of understanding. And I learned that that's so critical to have that technical person with you that can say, well, this is how we do it. This is where we are. So I'll be quiet now, but those are my interpretations.
Are you
Yeah.
glad you went?
I am glad I went, and I'm glad I went with the people I went with. So, and we can talk offline about some of the other extracurricular activities we engaged in as well.
And I'll ask the same question of each of you after you get to give us whatever highlights you'd like to share.
Well, yeah, just Pam did a good job of the overview. The membrane process that you were talking about is referred to as MABR. It's membrane aerated biofilm reactors. So yeah, we really knew all about those when we got done. We knew about one thing: they fit in the water and they do something with a whole bunch of
They
other stuff.
grow stuff up.
And what do they do with the stuff that's grown?
You can't ask these questions.
They stay there. And that's the process that helps clean the water.
Yeah.
You want it to.
Denitrification.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is it's filled with a whole bunch of very small strands of what they refer to as straws. That's as big as your hair. So very, very small. So anyway, it was an interesting process. Yes, and it was it was more than my brain could process, but at least I can say I did that. Now, Diane, one of the things, Rick really liked that, so we authorized him 30 minutes. I mean, there was 3 of us there, so we could hear it.
No, it wasn't a public meeting.
No. And then.
And that is a technology of the future
Yeah.
that Clean Water Services sees as a potential opportunity to increase water quality, to intensify treatment with the aeration basins we have. So it's just something that the team is contemplating as one potential path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was interesting how our facilities mirrored their facilities in many regards. What I think what we talked about after listening to some of the presentations that got really complex, Elizabeth and I sat in one we thought was going to be a general conversation about PFAS. Wow, it was, they got really, really deep in the weeds. And so didn't work for me, but it was interesting. It's also comparing the, I guess I'll call it demographics of Clean Water Services service district and the people they provide and the services and all those, and the differentiation between stormwater and sewage, and how many of the presentations were from countries. So it was hard to get my brain anyway around a country's service product versus ours, which was much smaller. But anyway, it was very similar in many ways, and it was very interesting. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, we got 10,000 steps in every day.
Yeah.
So it was good. So yeah, Nafisa, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, for asking. It was a great experience and a great learning. And I appreciate Clean Water Services' commitment to research and innovation. We really saw how Clean Water Services is really, and of course I'm biased because here we are. You are a step ahead, multiple steps even. Some cases, some of the presentations that we went to, it seemed like Clean Water Services were really far in advance. The technology that Rick, Commissioner William mentioned, when you have that discussion, be aware, we have a lot of terminologies down and we'll be super engaged. We have a lot of questions and opinions about it. It was really a cool experiment to see. And it really did mimic some of the treatment plans that we toured as a Board of Commissioners for Clean Water Services. So it was really a money well spent on your board of directors. And we really appreciate the staff that came with us. They were very experts in their fields, and whatever questions that we had, they were really there to answer, whether through text or just in conversations. So you really picked 3 incredible staff to go along with 3 incredible commissioners from the Board of Washington County. Sorry, Chair Herron.
It's okay.
I wish you were there. It was really a great experience. You and Commissioner Rogers. It was really good. Now, here's the power of perspective. I didn't go to the European tour or the conference, but it seemed really great to me. It was very organized to me. And the content, yes, I think there was a reason why they said technical session, work session. They did really differentiate, but then both of them were really hard topics and really a hard stuff to track. But it was really great. And I think one of the thing I related, one of the presentations was, and Commissioner Willie said it well, the content, some of the content was hard to relate because it felt like we were, so far in advance in terms of our own innovations and the research and some of the, technical stuff we're doing here in clean water services. But thank you. It was a great learning. And I can't wait to hear the staff session. And we did walk a lot and yeah, it was some of, yes, Commissioner Commissioner Treese, we did get these bags.
And they used the same vendor, so they fell apart as quickly as they did in Copenhagen.
She is telling the truth. I had to switch multiple times, right? Because every time I learned to do thorough checks before I accept the next bag. It still fell apart. So
At this conference, was there global participation? How did the world aspect come in?
Not as much as it did in Copenhagen. There in the individual utility leaders forum, there was a lot of participation in English as first language. In Copenhagen, we didn't have as much English as first language speakers. So there was Australia spoke in almost all of the pieces, obviously Canada, because they're the host. So there was much more of that influence, which for me kind of played down the countries like Uganda or some of the others that we heard from in Copenhagen. Now, when you went to the booths and we toured around the floor, that's where you kind of got that feel. We spent some time at the Uganda booth. Thank you.
a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and it was, those places were interesting, but not quite as much. But I don't think there was the attendance from around the world in Toronto that there was in Copenhagen either. Probably because of proximity.
Yeah.
So
Did they talk about where it is in 2 more years?
oh yeah, lots of talk about Glasgow.
Sweet.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be in Glasgow, Scotland.
Yeah.
So they did talk about that quite a bit.
Did they have a session for the utility leaders?
Yes, and that's where
A whole day.
there was a day and a half of that session, and there was some confusion about, we were supposed to have an invitation and approval, so it wasn't on our agenda to go to the first half, but Nafisa and I went to the second half of the first day together, and they were saying, no, you can't come in, and Nafisa she definitely elbowed her way in, and I followed in her path.
No, I asked them, I said, like, come on.
Yeah, and we did get in, and then we had to get Jerry in, and that was harder. No, just joking about that.
They did it
But it
backwards.
was,
Because one thing that, we had that track together, but then the Denmark folks had arranged a couple of different, more social events that helped that.
not like that. And the other thing, and I'm going to be really frank about this, I think we missed having Diane there. Diane in that type of setting is such a magnet. So many people know Diane. So many people.
She was on the papers that were on our desk.
I
tell you, I was really, this is why I said, well, Clean Water Services is very ahead. You were right there, surrounded by men. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but surrounded by men.
So, and what Nafisa is referring to is there was a piece of information about the Utility Leaders Forum, and it had a picture of a panel, and Diane's like this big in the picture, but I went, oh, that's Diane. So we also had a group chat going for the whole time. So we knew where each other was. I'm sure the people that were here at home were like rolling their eyes like,
Stop it.
really, stop.
Well, I didn't realize there were people home attached to it.
But we were
That's okay.
sending pictures of our different
Randy's
forums.
just telling me about them.
Oh, yeah.
It was, and I sent, I took a picture of the document that Nafisa is talking about and sent it to Diane. So, you're here.
Yeah.
So, but I do think that that was missing. We didn't have, for example, remember the dinner that we went to on the water?
Mhm.
And it was, there were elected leaders there, and that was really, we didn't have that
That
type
was
of
the
interaction.
third, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We didn't have that type of interaction.
I experienced that same magnetism with regard to the qualities of our CWS CEO at the NACWA conference.
Oh, nice.
Yes, we are very fortunate to have Diane Taniguchi
Mhm.
Dennis, not only as the CEO of Clean Water Services, but as a leader in the
Yeah.
industry. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
really did appreciate.
Elizabeth, is there anything else you would like to add?
For the record, Elizabeth Edwards, Chief of Staff for Clean Water Services. I'm here as always to support our board.
Yes, but are you glad that you went?
I am very glad that I went. I will say you really have to eat your Wheaties to keep up with these folks. And we did go all day. And it was certainly a mind expanding experience all around, really looking at the nexus between uh, energy efficient resource recovery and clean water. And so I've been sort of thinking about how those different pieces weave together. That district energy tour on the first day, they are about to start construction on a new heating facility that will pipe heating throughout a whole district based on finding a trunk sewer line. And so they're going to use the heat from the waste
Mhm.
and use that to power a whole section of the city, which is tremendously innovative. So it was inspiring in that way.
Yep.
Yeah. I was
So if I could bring in some other knowledge related to this. So when I was a Metro counselor as part of the industrial land study, Alberta, Canada came in and they had done district work for a whole new industrial area. But we also had speakers there dealing with waste energy for heating of a particular city in a European country. City of Beaverton has that with the round. That's a district implementation, a small district, but a district nonetheless. But that whole Alberta panel, I don't know if you were mayor then, Commissioner Willie, or Mayor Callaway, but it was all part of that industrial lands and looking at opportunities. But you're right, we don't have, you know, that broad new greenfield development that many countries do have.
The other thing that they mentioned was not only do we not have that, we don't have that huge anchor tenant. And they had IBM coming in as a huge anchor tenant that agreed to support this. So those are the key factors
Yeah.
that made it work.
There are some areas of the East Coast where they're looking at their older, like over 100-year industrial areas, you know, whether it be shipbuilding or, you know, old factory areas that are looking at those district opportunities. By comparison, we here on the West Coast are still quite young and not doing as much there. But so in the end,
I want to add one more thing.
Yeah.
And this is to just bring it to all Washington County. One of the thing I noticed, and I had questions about Toronto, is their theory or their concept of community building, because it seemed like everybody was in a high risers of 84 or above. So I wondered about that. And then the other thing I noticed, and this might sound a bit exaggeration, when we were walking downtown area, I saw a lot more people than cars. So their concept of congestion management and traffic management seemed really interested to me, because it's a city of 6.4 million. We had to look it up. We're like, how congested is this place to have this many high risers? And it was 6.4 million. which explains the high risers, you know, concept, but I was wondering, like, how do they go about community building and how do
So
they manage?
that is a fascinating
Yeah.
question, and one, once again, through my Metro Council experience, I had a lot to learn of. So for the sake of the Clean Water Services Nexus, thank you very much for giving us a highlight. It sounds like it was once again a trip worth making, and emphasizes that all water is shared on our shared planet of Earth. And we all need to do our part to make sure that we are taking good care of it. And that is certainly at the heart of what we do at Clean Water Services. So I thank you for attending that conference and for learning and representing us as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Diane, for sending us there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we will pause our work session here and move on to our business meeting. And then after our business meeting, if it ends after the 11 o'clock hour, then we will reconvene our work session here at 1 o'clock. If by any chance the business meeting ends before 11 o'clock, we will look at potentially returning to work session here.
We will have a full hour for lunch.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, we
'cause
always,
I have to study.
The item we have at 1 o'clock it's a time certain, I'm guessing, because it's well from that.
so as presiding officer, I'll work with Ms. Angie on those details. We don't
Okay.
need to do it by committee. Thank you
Okay.
very much. We'll see you in the business meeting.
Okay.